Hello and welcome to another video. So I don't know if you've noticed, but today I have a little bit of a different setup, and that is because I just wanted to be comfortable today. I have 4 huge stacks of books right next to me, and that's so much more comfortable sitting on the ground. So if you haven't guessed by what I'm saying or by the literal title of this video, today I am talking to you guys about all of the books I have read in 2020. Okay, so this is how it's gonna go. I am going to show you the book I read and then tell you how much I liked it and then who I would recommend it to. So first book on the list is Daisy Jones and the Six, and I think I actually read this one in January, but it feels honestly like I read it last year because of all the quarantine and stuff. I gave this book a 9 out of 10. I think I should have given it a 10 out of 10 because I have so many happy memories and great feelings attached to it. I used the audiobook. 10 out of 10, incredible, full cast, loved it. Who would I recommend this to? Literally anyone. If you're interested in like
70s to 80s style music, if you're interested in the Hollywood scene, in old rock bands, in music in general, honestly, just pick this up. It's a great book.
It's an amazing ensemble cast, and you will not be disappointed, even if you don't like contemporary. My second read was Blood of Olympus, and if you've been like on my channel for a hot second, you know what I think about this book. It was a reread because I was rereading all of the Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus books, and I think I give this one an 8 out of 10, which might be a little bit too generous and might only be because of how attached I am to the characters. But honestly, I would recommend this book to anyone who is reading the Percy Jackson or the Heroes of Olympus books because it's the last book of a series, so you can't really just pick it up on its own. But if you're reading the series, don't let people deter you from reading this book. Just read it, make up your own opinion, and like let me know down in the comments what you feel about this book because there's a lot of like mixed feelings. Then I read Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, which I honestly picked up because of the beautiful cover, and I gave this book an 8 out of 10, mostly because I did like this story. It wasn't my favorite, but I really enjoyed what it makes you think about, like toxic relationships and friendship, and the thing I enjoyed the most was the female friendship in this. It was really great. I love to see it, and if you like graphic novels, if you are in the search for a girl-on-girl romance, then this is the book for you. Then I read a whole manga series called I'm Not an Angel, and I actually got it. I borrowed it from my friend Sada, and I loved it. It was unexpected because it's not in like my usual preferred drawing style, but I really loved it. Would recommend it to anyone who likes romance manga or contemporary manga focused on a group of friends, and I gave this one 9 out of 10. Then I read The Toll, and honestly I wish I'd read this right after reading the other two because I did not feel connected to the characters. I forgot what most of the story was about, and it had a very slow beginning. Overall, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, basically because the ending was just really good and very like satisfying. And who would I recommend this to? Anyone who likes sci-fi and weird Bible parallels. Then I read The Tyrant's Tomb, and while I was reading this book, I noticed that I did not remember anything that happened in the previous 3 books, which might have added to why I didn't like this book as much as to the others. I gave this one a 7 out of 10 in the end, simply because I feel like nothing happened until page 150, and yeah, it just didn't have as much impact on me as the others. I would recommend it to anyone who's read the Percy Jackson ones or is reading the Trials of Apollo. Next up, I reread the Engame Trilogy, and honestly, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I thought that I wasn't gonna like it nearly as much as I did when I was younger and I read it for the first time. And I didn't like it as much, but I still enjoyed it. The plot was basically meh, but I gave it, I think, a 7.8 out of 10 simply because of all the feels it gives me and the lols. I really laughed out loud during this book. And I would recommend this to anyone who likes YA dystopian and was like really into that craze during the 2010s. Then I read Rebel, which is the reason I reread the Legend Trilogy, and honestly, I gave my thoughts on this book in the 2020 Wars reads, and I don't have much to say about it, only that if you like the Legend Trilogy, I would recommend it just to have some closure. But obviously don't pick this up if you haven't read the Legend Trilogy because you will be super duper lost. And it's not worth it. Then I read Twilight, and I gave this a 6 out of 10. Maybe that's too generous. I don't know. Would recommend this to anyone who's already read this and literally no one else. Well, if you want to read it ironically, I'll recommend it to you because that's what I did. I've always had the mindset that you can't really criticize something unless you know what it's about, so you can't really criticize the Twilight books if you haven't read them, because that would be super hypocritical. So I read them, and now I can really bash them because I know what I'm talking about. Then I picked up Aurora Rising, and I wanted to reread this one because I read the next one, and I wanted to remember everything that happened. Loved it again, loved the characters, loved the plot. Absolutely 10 out of 10, one of my favorite books ever, and would recommend this to anyone who likes sci-fi, anyone who likes the Illuminate series because it's the same authors, anyone who likes a nice ensemble story. There's like 6 points of views. You'll love every single one of these characters, and it's just like a great found family with sci-fi and a little bit of romance like dashed in there. So then I read the most painful book of 2020, and that is New Moon.
No, I was holding it right.
New Moon. I gave this book for it deserves a 2. It's also in my 2020 worst reads, so go figure. I would recommend this to someone who hates themselves. Then I read Aurora Burning, the second book in the Aurora Rising trilogy, and I give this book an 8 out of 10 because I really enjoyed the beginning and I really enjoyed the ending, but it just hit like a stop at the middle of the book, and I just like didn't feel that. Didn't really like the pacing, but again, I would recommend this to anyone who really liked how I described the first book in the series. Then I picked up my first book by a booktuber author, and that was Again But Better. Honestly, I was happily surprised because I've read so many bad and brutally bad reviews online that I came into this expecting to hate it. And when I didn't, I was like, what? Am I enjoying this book? It's like nothing to write home about, but it was enjoyable. I liked the characters, I liked the twist in the story. If you've watched Christine's video, her Q&A video, she explains why this might sound like a self-insert and just like her writing about her own life. So if you haven't, go watch that. It's a great video. Give it a 7.5 out of 10. I am looking forward to reading her next book and seeing if it's like if her writing got any better. But yeah, I would recommend this to either anyone who watches Christine's videos or just anyone who likes contemporaries and is really like a London geek. Also, anyone who likes contemporary romances that has like a little twist of magic. Next up is Supernova, and I actually enjoyed this one way more than I thought I would. Basically because I saw Emma Books read it and she was kind of iffy about it because she loved the other one so much. She like overestimated this book and was a little underwhelmed, but I wasn't. The ending was great, if a little stressful. I give this one an 8 out of 10 and would recommend it to anyone who likes superhero books and superheroes in general. It's a really great read. Then I reread the first 2 books in the Engame Trilogy, and honestly, I kind of enjoyed them. It has like 10 points of views, so I enjoyed some of them, and I reread these 2 to read the last book, Rules of the Game, and I was honestly so underwhelmed. I read these 2 books like for the first time at least 5 years ago, and when I got to this one, I was super underwhelmed, besides it being like super duper short, because this one was one of the most underwhelming and unsatisfying books I've read in 2020, and all in all would not recommend to anyone. Then I read Chained of Gold, and oh my god, this book gave me so many freaking feelings, like good feelings and bad feelings, and I hate one of these characters' feelings. I gave this a 9 out of 10 and would recommend it to literally anyone who's read any of the Shadowhunter books honestly, I would advise you read them in order. Don't pick this one up if you haven't read like the previous series, but this was so good. So if you like a really complicated web of relationships and romances, and if you like a London 18th century aesthetic, then this is the book for you. Also, if you like monsters, then there's a lot of them in here. Also, there's no incest, so there's that. I mean, there's no incest yet. We'll have to see the next book in the series. Then I picked up Kinslayer, which was also in my worst reads of 2020, so I gave this one a 7 out of 10, which might have been a little bit too generous. I don't know, I think I'm too generous with my ratings, and would honestly not recommend this one. I mean, if you like steampunk and if you like Japanese mythology, then pick this one up, but it's just like, I don't think it's for me. I might read the last one. I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about it. If you've read this and liked it and you think the third book is better, please tell me down below, because I don't know if I'm gonna pick the next one up. Then I picked up Bloom, and this was honestly like an impulse buy because it's a graphic novel about bread. I mean, it's not about bread. It's about two boys who fall in love over making bread, which I don't know. Honestly, this just gave me like really a strong need to bake bread, which I don't hate, but the story I felt like was a little lackluster, and I would love to see it like expanded upon in like a book format or something. And honestly, I would recommend this to anyone who likes bread, who likes like a cute romance and a coming of age and finding yourself story. Also, it's pretty helpful if you like the color bluish green, because that's literally the only color in this book. Okay, we're down to our last two piles of books, and then I picked up Loveless, and I actually really loved this book. I think I might have been expecting a little too much from it and expecting to relate more to the main character, so I was kind of disappointed when I didn't love it and relate to it as much as I wish I had. So I think that's like my own issue, not the books that I went into it with my expectations way too high. But I gave this a 7.8 or an 8 out of 10. I would recommend this to anyone who likes finding yourself stories, to anyone who likes queer stories and found family stories. It's really great. It also has a great setting, which is a university in England. So if you're all about that, then definitely pick this book up. Then I read Children of Blood and Virtue, which is the second book in the series, and honestly would not recommend reading this book without reading at least a summary of the previous book, or just having read it, because I forgot about everything that happened in the previous book. And halfway through, I read a summary, I remembered everything that happened, and I started to enjoy it so much more. So that's my recommendation for you. If you like the first one, try to remember what happens, because you'll enjoy this one so much more, which I think is a recommendation that can like go for any book series in the world. But I give this one a 7.8 out of 10. Would recommend this to anyone who
kind of likes the Avatar universe and like the power dynamics, and anyone who likes magic systems and like African mythology, because a lot of it gets explored here and it's really interesting.
Also, there's a great female friendship, so what else do you want from a book?
Eminem break.
Then I picked up Eclipse, and literally the only thing written on my journal about this book is that no plot, and the Spanish translation of it gets worse and worse the more books they publish. I don't know why. If you've read this in Spanish, you know the translation like really sucks. As someone who's studied translation in college, I have no freaking clue how they like published this. But honestly, no shade to the translators. Would recommend this to anyone who hates themselves, wants to read it ironically, or has already read the books and loves them simply out of nostalgia. Then I read Breaking Dawn, and I had to read one of the grossest scenes I've read in my life. Would not wish that upon my worst enemy. 4 out of 10. Really gross. No action in the end. Literally, the last 100 pages is a supposed conflict, and they just talk from 100 feet apart. So, again, would recommend it to the same kind of person as literally all the other Twilight books. Then I reread Eliza and Her Monsters, because I was really in a like rereading contemporary mood, And honestly, I think I liked this a little bit more than I did the first time. The first time I was younger and I hadn't noticed like the importance this book gives to mental health. Honestly, I did not like the main character that much, but I understood her. I gave this one an 8 out of 10. I thought it was like really good representation and I like the story as a whole. Really wish I could like read her Monstrous Sea webcomic, and would recommend this one to anyone who likes fan culture, webcomics, and is interested in reading about mental health in a contemporary romantic setting.
Also, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think she deserves her brothers being as nice to her as they are at the end of the book, because she's literally done nothing to them to deserve that. Maybe that's just me.
Then I read Call Down the Hawk, and honestly I was a little bit underwhelmed because I was expecting this to be on the level of the Raven Cycle. I love the Raven Cycle because the most important thing in it was the friendship between the gang, the main characters. Their friendship and their whole dynamics with each other. This one only has about 3 important main characters, and the importance of this book comes from each of them individually and not their relationships, and that's what I was missing in the book. I really wish the gang would pop up in the next one because I really miss them and I love them so much, but I give this one a 7.8 out of 10 and would recommend it to anyone who's read the Raven Cycle and misses at least Adam and Ronan. Then I read The Red Pyramid, and I have to say, it's a little bit formulaic. I don't know how to explain that. It's just the feeling it gave me. I did really like Carter's and Sadie's siblings relationship. I feel like especially Rick doesn't usually explore sibling relationships, and I thought this was a really realistic one, and I have to reread the next 2 before the Netflix adaptation comes out, so I have to do that soon. I said I would do that in like October and I still haven't done it, but would recommend this book to anyone who likes Rick's writing, especially anyone who likes the Percy Jackson series over any of the others. Then I read The Hating Game.
Yes, McKenna, thank you for recommending this one to me. Like, I've already thanked you enough.
I gave this one a 10 out of 10. Loved it. Cannot wait to see the movie adaptation. I'm like dying to watch it, and if it's not perfect, I will cry. Recommend this one to anyone who likes office romances, contemporary romances that are focused more on like 28-year-olds, finding yourself, finding a friend, being a little bit alone in your later 20s, and a really, 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 really well done haters to lovers. Chef Kiss. I love this book. I love this book. And that's all I have to say about that. Then I picked up Take a Hint, Dani Brown, which I have already talked about in my October reading wrap-up. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10 because I read it right after The Hating Game. It was also a recommendation from my friend McKenna, so I think my expectations were way too high for it, and that's why I didn't enjoy it as much. But I would recommend it to anyone who likes contemporary romances with a lot of diversity, both like race-wise and LGBTQIA-wise. So if you like that, then you'll definitely enjoy this book. Also, there's like a fake relationship in it, so if you like that trope. Then I picked up Tower of Nero. I literally have a whole review about it, so I'm not going to talk about it here. Really liked it. Pick it up. Who do I recommend it to? Anyone who's read the Percy Jackson books. Honestly, this is kind of self-explanatory. And then came one of my favorite books of 2020, and that is Red, White, and Royal Blue. I talk about this one in the favorite reads of 2020 videos. I give this one a 10 out of 10. Really loved it. Would recommend it to anyone who likes London, rivals to lovers, complicated relationships, having to fake that you're not in a relationship, having to fake your friends to cover up your relationship, anyone who's interested in American politics, anyone who's interested in the British royalty, and anyone who really, really likes just like a great romantic read, because I love it. And I am not really the kind of person who digs contemporary romances, so pick this book up. Please do yourself a favor. Then I read The Princess and the Dressmaker, and I give this one a 6.5 out of 10. Honestly, it was a little underwhelming because it's not the story I expected, because I made up a completely different story in my mind before reading it. But I would recommend this to anyone who likes LGBTQ+, graphic novels, and just like a really cute friends to lovers theme. Then I read Camp Jupiter Classified, and I'm pretty sure by now you know my thoughts on this. I give this one a 6 out of 10 simply because I was expecting the story to be a little bit bigger. I would recommend this to anyone who's a Percy Jackson fan, who loves the series, and who likes collecting the little, like, side stories. It's a fun collector's item. Then I reread Fangirl, and oh my god, did I love this one so much more than I thought I would. I gave this a 9 out of 10. I think I might have enjoyed it more than when I read it the first time, maybe because now I'm like through with my college experience, but I really liked the romance in it. I liked the family dynamics, and I thought it was like so much better than I remembered. I would recommend this to anyone who still hasn't read it. Like, it's 2020, you've probably read Fangirl if you're on BookTube, but anyone who likes
fandom, Harry Potter, coming of age stories, romance, friends to lovers, and also like stories centered around college.
Then I reread my third contemporary of the year, and that is Geekerella. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I also loved this one much more than I thought because I thought I wouldn't like it as much as I did when I read it the first time, but I honestly really did. I really loved both of the main characters, and I would recommend this to anyone who likes a Cinderella retelling because it's a Cinderella retelling. Also, if you're into fandom, you will enjoy this one. And then I picked up The Princess and the Fangirl. I have a whole reading blog about it, so go check that out. This one I gave a 7 out of 10, and if you watch my reading blog, you'll find out why. And I recommend this one to anyone who likes conventions, fandom, and The Prince and the Pauper Tale. Then I picked up Black Canary Fire, and this is another case of me going in with my expectations way too high because I really love Black Canary as a character. I love Dinah Lance. And honestly, I gave this one a 7.5 out of 10 simply because my expectations were too high, but I would definitely recommend this to anyone who likes comic books, coming of age like stories, and finding yourself, and Dinah Lance, and Black Canary in general. Also, I wish there were like 2 or 3 more volumes because I really want to see more from this world and this character. Then I picked up Instant Karma. Oh, what is that? Do I literally have another reading vlog about this? Yes, I have that. So if you want to know more of my in-depth thoughts about it, just click the link and you'll be able to see me ranting for half an hour. So I gave this one a 10 out of 10, one of my favorite reads this year, and I would recommend this to anyone who likes marine biology, business, volunteering, and rivals to lovers because they did that trope to perfection. The only bad thing about that book is annoying Prudence. Then I picked up Teen Titans Beast Boy, and I really enjoyed this one. I think I give it an 8 out of 10 simply because I think in both of these comics, so this one and the Raven one, they could be more explored if they were in book format, but that's usually what happens with graphic novels. All in all, I'm really looking forward to the next one, Beast Boy Loves Raven. I'm not completely 100% sure of that title, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to finally seeing their relationship, and I really want them to keep writing these and make one for each of the Teen Titans. But honestly, I would recommend this to anyone who likes the Teen Titans, graphic novels, and people turning into animals. But this one, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I thought it was interesting, a good introduction, maybe a little bit predictable at times, and I didn't completely fall in love with any of the characters. Then my last 3 ones are Siege and Storm. I have a full review coming up of this trilogy, so stay tuned for that. But this one, it was a little underwhelming for me. It's my least favorite one in the series. I think I give it a 6 out of 10. But I would recommend this book series to anyone who's
Six of Crows, who likes intricate magic systems and who likes like a lot of political drama and I don't know, maybe if you like high fantasy and romance, you'll like this one.
Then I read one of my most unexpected favorite reads of the year, and that is Runaways by Rainbow Rowell. I gave this one a 10 out of 10. I watched the show during quarantine while I was knitting. It was my favorite pastime during those dark months, but I finally picked up the comic book and I gave it a 10 out of 10. I really love this issue and I want to buy the others, but they're so expensive. But honestly, I would not recommend this to anyone who has either not watched the show or not watched the previous comic books, because this picks up after there's like a whole story. So if you pick this one up without having watched the show or read the previous comics, you're going to be super lost. So please watch the show or read the comics. I can only recommend the show because I haven't read the previous comics, but I thought it was enough to know what was going on in here. I loved every single one of the characters. I loved the story. I thought it was so well told, even though it had like very few pages to do it. The only things I did not like were Gert's fashion choices, but that's kind of explained because she's plus size, so she says she has more trouble finding clothes her size. And what's up with everyone dashing Chase? If you want to pick this one up, I would recommend it if you like superheroes and found family, because this is one of my favorite found families in 2020 and maybe like in my life. The final books I read this year was Aurora Rising, and I did a 24-hour readathon of this one. It was completely out of just like personal spite because I just wanted to be done with this. I was like, I'm just gonna finish this today, and you can see that in my vlog. But I actually really enjoyed this one, reading it so much faster than the other ones. Maybe it's because of the reading experience, I don't know. I think I give it a 7.75 out of 10, very specific, I know. But yeah, I like this one so much better than the second one, and I'm just looking forward to reading King of Scars now. And then, you might think that was the last one, but no. My friend tempted me, and I reread The Hating Game again with her in 2 days. So, still give it a 10 out of 10. And that's it. Let's go over my year in books. So, in 2020, I read a total of 17,114 pages, and I read a total of 43 books. That's it. Those are all the books I read in 2020. This video is going to be so freaking long, so if you made it this far, congratulations. Please leave a like, comment which was your favorite book you read in 2020 and which was the worst one, and if you've read any of the books that I've read this year, subscribe, click that bell notification so you get notified every time I post. I post every Monday and Friday, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!